Hello, this is Adriana Hurtado. In this video, we'll discuss a comprehensive breakdown of ideal scapiohumeral rhythm against my subject. The movements available are elevation and depression, protraction or abduction and retraction or adduction, and upward and downward rotation. This coordinated movement happens on a predictable fashion, and any disturbance to this pattern is evidence of the muscular or joint dysfunction. In order to complete a correct scapulohumeral rhythm, it is required to achieve full upper limb elevation. The faulty movement patterns in my asymptomatic 23 years old full-time student subject is happening around the left scapula and external rotation of the glenohumeral joint with a restricted scapuloclavicular movement. The AC joint movement has a connective point between the axial and the upper extremity, with approximately 4 degrees of movement normally. But in my subject, this movement is restricted in the left side. Additionally, can be observed that in my subject the shoulders are slightly rounded, causing him weakness in the deep neck flexors, lower trapezius and serratus anterior muscles with tight pectoralis muscles as well. Also tight upper traps and levator scapula muscles. Those dysfunctional muscles could be causing protraction of his left scapula, as SC joint is firmly attached by anterior-posterior SC ligament, interclavicular ligament and costoclavicular ligament, articular disc, and sternocleidomastoid, sternothyroid, sternohyoid, and subclavius muscles. During the physical assessment, it is important for the assessor to consider these tissues in joint play and end feeling through the range of movement. We can observe in the middle point between adduction and abduction in this middle point, we can observe the left arm is slightly lower and the scapula is malpositioned with respect to the right side. Typically, the glenoid fossa is slightly upwards rotated, thus giving the humeral head a shelf to sit upon and take some of the arm weight. When the scapula is malpositioned, this can cause the humeral head to drop and stretch the superior scapular structures. Over time, this can result in inferior instability of the joint. The rest position at the scapula, according to Newman, is when the medial border places 6 centimeters from the spine of each scapula towards the midline. 10 degrees of anterior tilt rotation is normal. In my subject, I have 10 degrees already extra rotated towards the lateral side. Another normal, according to Newman, another normal measure is 5 to 10 degrees from upward rotation and 35 degrees of internal rotation is in the scapular plane. Generally, on the first 30 degrees of shoulder adduction, the scapula remains stationary against the rib cage as the movement is occurring at the glenohumeral joint. it can be observed in my subject that the inferior angle of the left scapula is already rotated, as I mentioned at the beginning, in a total of 20 degrees already. Continuing with the shoulder adduction, the inferior angle of the scapula starts to shift upwards as it undergoes superior rotation. Ideally, the average is approximately 2 degrees of glenohumeral movement from every 1 degree of scapulothoracic movement from this point. Which means that as the upper extremity moves on through adduction to 90 degrees, the glenohumeral joint contributes with 40 degrees for a total of 70 degrees, but the scapulothoracic joint only contributes with 20 degrees. This ratio continues about 90 degrees, so by the time the arm has been raised to 150 degrees, the contribution of each joint will be 110 degrees for the glenohumeral joint and 40 degrees for the scapulothoracic joint. This ratio can vary during different portions of the arch of elevation and can be different from person to person. Therefore, it's always important to compare the involved side with the uninvolved side. In comparison with the ideal movement, it can be suggested some exercises to correct over-protraction of the left scapula and correct the dysfunctional muscles through movement and initial treatment, releasing the trigger points. The following suggested exercise at the initial phase, performing them twice a day, 10 repetitions each limb, and reassess at the end of the first 3 weeks. That will be the first step. A scapular strengthening exercise suggested, such as shoulder flexion extension in different positions, with mid-squat position with one leg flexed in the air, another one with a standing position and one leg flexed resting on the lower leg in a bench, a scapular retraction with an elastic band, seated scapular retraction, a scapular isometric protraction. All this with the aim to help with the balance and improvement of the overall musculoskeletal health, functional posture, and higher performance. Also, bad habits are very important to address to be able to change for the healthy pattern of movement. It can be suggested and explained the damage could cause over the time to lay down on the bed in his left side regularly while studying with the computer. Over the time, this could be a cause of injury also in the elbow and in the neck as well, as it could be happening very soon if he doesn't change the pattern of movement in his shoulder joints.